Okay. Adult friendships. This is a topic that I feel like, honestly, you're kind of an expert
Oh,
on.
I was shaking my head saying like a lot of people want to talk about it because I keep getting messages about it.
Something that I suck at, but you're pretty good at. So,
But I also think that you will have thoughts and it will help both of us like learn something to just be a better friend. I think every single person, even if you have a lot of friends, you feel like you're a good friend, we all can get better at it. I just want to put a plug in really quick. I feel like people have probably been hearing about this book, but it's called The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. I feel like she's like all over the internet right now. I didn't even know who she was, you know, and I'm super grateful that I found her book because it's been really cool for me. So a lot of what we'll reference today is going to be from her book. I'm almost finished with the book. I've just been listening to it on Audible. I am a self-help girly though, for sure. Like I know some people don't like self-help books. I get that from my dad for sure. I think he was always just, I don't know, wanting to better himself and reflect. And I think I have that same trait. I think sometimes people can think they're cheesy or overdone, but I do think there's a lot of pieces in this book that are really interesting. So I think I told you, but the chapter where she talks about adult friendships, she talks about how there's 3 different pillars to adult friendships. Proximity is the first one. The second one is timing. And the third one is energy. And so she talks about how proximity, you know, you grow up with all of these people, maybe with school, and you see them at college or you're in the same classes. And it's like you kind of just have built-in friends. And so a lot of the time when we graduate from school, move on with our lives, we're not close in proximity to these people. And so it's kind of hard to keep up the friendships when you're not close. And then timing, sometimes like timing could be off. Like you were really good friends with somebody in your life because you guys were doing the same things, or you're, you know, a parent at the same time, and whatever, things just shift. And then the energy, she talks about how you need to trust your gut. Same thing, trust your energy. If the energy feels off, it probably is, and like the energy is guiding you to your people. And she kind of talks about how, I brought this up to you, like some of the best relationships and friendships in your life are still out there, and that like you haven't even met those people yet. And I remember when I told you that, Josh, you were like, that seems kind of crazy, right?
I don't know if I believe it.
Really? Why do you say that?
Because you're my best friend. I don't think I'm going to get a better friend than you.
But don't you think that like a marriage, that friendship in a marriage, it's completely different than like maybe a male friendship that you have, right?
I mean, yeah, definitely.
But why is it not believable that you could meet somebody that could change your life?
I mean, those are 2 different things. I definitely think there's people I could meet that could change my life, but I definitely think that there's really good people out there. But just with where I'm at in my life, like the timing, I don't have energy to give to anybody else other than you and my obligations.
Well, and the thing that's interesting about it is Mel talks about how it takes 200 hours to consider somebody a close friend. And so I was thinking in my mind, like that is a lot of hours that you got to put in to really become close with somebody, right? And so it is hard, you know, anyone out there that's listening that's not married, I feel like it's hard to even fathom like what it takes to be married and be a parent. Like, because I don't know, you think you have so little time when you're single, but now don't you feel like you're like, what did we even do with our time when we were single?
It's like, it's a lot better and easier to work on yourself when you're by yourself, you know?
Yeah. But I'm saying like to even put hours into a friendship, right?
Yeah,
like what you're saying. I do think that you probably need to change your mindset a little bit though, right? If you want to make more friends.
It's like part of me wants to, but doesn't want to enough to make changes in my life.
Yeah, I get that.
There are times where absolutely I feel lonely, but I wonder if that's more so just because of the way that I think, in the position that I have within our business and how I'm positioned in the lives of most of the people that I'm around. Well, more so than me feeling like my social cup is empty.
Well, she talks about that though, that like you spend the most time at work outside of your home. And so a lot of the time people feel like, you know, your closest friendships would probably be from work, right? But I do think that sometimes the people that you work with, you might not have a lot in common with, or you're not in the same timing of life, like we were saying. Something that I like that she talks about is how, and this is the way that I think that you could make a lot of friends if you wanted to, right? She talks about how she would always go to a coffee shop and she would end up like not talking to a lot of people, but she went there so often that she was thinking like, you know, almost like what would happen if I got to know even the workers or people that are there. And so she started to write down people's names, like in a note app. Like she would write down the barista's name, and then basically like became close with a lot of the people that she would see every day. And so I think like really though, like you're saying, you have to be in the mindset of you're gonna have to put in effort if you want more adult friends. Because I feel like people have messaged me before and asked me like, how have you kept up friendships? How do you make friends? I think a lot of people want to know that. And because we just live in a world where I think a lot of people do feel lonely, and they want companionship outside of their marriage.
I feel like you're good at that though. You're a lot better than I am at putting in effort.
But something that I've noticed about you though, like we go to plunge and you start talking to people in the sauna, you know? And so
A lot of times they're pretty interesting.
yeah. And so think about though, like if you didn't open up or ask people questions, you wouldn't like, it almost probably fills your cup a little bit, right? Because you're learning from other people, you're talking to people. And I think that's why sometimes motherhood can be so draining as like stay-at-home moms, especially because we don't get that stimulation sometimes of like just talking to adults. So even though like you're not going to maybe become close friends with somebody and put in that 200 hours with somebody at the sauna, it's still like fulfilling and fun to talk to people, right? And you learn so much. Like you're saying, people are super interesting. But I do get what you're saying too. Like sometimes your bandwidth is just so limited. And so I think you have to be careful with that and your mental health, like what you can handle. But no matter what, I have to say, like, you have to put in effort if you want to be friends, have adult friends. For what she said, I feel like she became close with a lot of people that she didn't even realize she would. Like there was a couple that she ended up meeting at the coffee shop that she had a lot in common with, and she realized that they lived close to her. And it was almost like she was saying if she wasn't open to that and she didn't talk to a lot of people at that shop, she would have missed out right on that opportunity. And so I just think that we can give just people out there some ideas of things that they can do when they don't really know how to make friends. So it basically, she's like, friendship matters. It's there for you to create, but you have to take responsibility for it. You got to go first. You have to make the effort. And it's basically just really liberating when you have to take control of the situation, right? I think something that I'm good at that I try to do is compliment people. And she talks about how that like breaks the ice. Like if you just start complimenting people, you just say hi. She talks about how these micro connections, they matter because they improve loneliness, but it's on you to make the time and to make friendship happen. So like you're saying, sometimes you feel loneliness, Josh, but like, even if you're not going to become close friends with these people, you just making those micro connections in the sauna, that helps you to feel less lonely. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. So that's something that I think, you know, a lot of us can do. I think it does make us feel really good when we can compliment somebody, and like something like I like about their outfit. Maybe I'll just be like, oh, I really like your shirt. It really, you know, brings out your eyes, or I don't know. I think that that's how we can start talking to people, is when we just compliment and we're just kind and we say hi. And another thing she talks about is that we can join a team, join a class, start a club, which I've done in the past. Like I had a book club at a time. Oh, something that I was thinking that I brought up to you, Josh, that you could do more of. It says in the book, like invite somebody to a concert, like do the things that you're going to do, but then you invite people in your proximity. And if they come, great. If they don't, great. Right? Like we don't put too much pressure on it. We kind of did that in a way, like when we went to the Post Malone concert, like I put feelers out, right? I was like, would you want to come? me and Josh are thinking about going, but also just not putting too much pressure on people or being like mad if they don't end up coming. Yeah. And then just be curious. People love to talk about themselves. Smile, be warm and approachable, have a welcoming spirit. Life will open up to you, but don't expect anything. Something that I thought about when she was talking to, like, she talks about how her daughter went to college and she was so lonely and she couldn't really find connections and make friends in like the first year of her college experience. And Mel Robbins basically told her daughter like to give it a year. That's like what she wanted for her. And so I think like sometimes we could put like stipulations maybe on our children. Like I was just thinking, what if Noah came to us and he was like, I hate college. Everyone sucks. I'm not making friends. I hate my classes, like whatever. Right. And because that's something that I feel like my parents did with me. I don't feel like I was a kid though that complained a lot. Like I just thought this is an opportunity that I'm at college, like I am so excited. Like I just felt really grateful for that opportunity. I think that we could possibly have a child that wouldn't maybe feel that way, and just kind of encouraging them to give it a chance, and give it a year is what she said. Because I think that is true. Like she talks about how her daughter ended up meeting some of the best friends of her life. And it was at the very end of her first year of college. Right. And so sometimes I feel like we don't give things a long enough shot, if that makes sense. Like, do you have any thoughts about that? Like what we could do with our kids, or
especially with college? It's one of those things that you shouldn't really just give up on right away. Even if college isn't for you, you should see it through to the end of a year at least, maybe even 2. I like that, that illustrates that point that she would have missed out on that opportunity if she had left early. And I think ultimately that just comes from staying in a place. Like I think that the takeaway from that is that the daughter stayed in a place that maybe was uncomfortable. She wasn't making friends, but she stayed in a place where that could happen and she didn't give up on it. Yeah.
Something that I really have learned, I guess, from this book is just to be more flexible. Because I feel like a lot of the time I put a lot of pressure on myself. I opened up to you, this past weekend about things that I felt like I should have gone to with friends, and I felt really bad about it. And I don't know, I just think that sometimes we have to give ourselves grace, but we have to also give others grace. That's the kind of friend that we want to be friends with, right? Like where they don't put too much pressure on us. But I also think like there might be a friendship where they put no effort, and then you kind of have to say, let them put no effort, is like what Mel always says, like, let them do this, but then let me in turn do what I'm going to do. Right. So there might be someone in your life that you're like, okay, let them not invite me, but I'm, maybe at this point going to let me move away from that friendship. So I just think a lot of the time we just have to think about our effort is what matters. And a lot of things are just completely out of our control. So she says like, let them get married. Let them not invite me. Don't make it personal. Wish them well. Let me be mature, and people hold no power over you unless you give it to them. What would happen if you were more flexible? Do you have any thoughts about that? Just being more flexible in life.
I think I'd probably have more friends.
If you were more flexible?
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Well, I mean, the flexibility would need to be paired with effort. I definitely have like an abundant mindset when it comes to certain things, but when it comes to my own energy, I do feel like I'm scarce with it. Just in this moment of our life.
But I was going to say, like, I feel that similarly to you, where for a lot of my life, I feel like I was able to put so much energy into my friendships and my relationships. I do feel like I still make a concerted effort with a lot of my friendships, but I do think I fall short, just like we all do, right? Sometimes we have to shift and we have to realize, my husband needs me and my kids need me. And I just had a baby 2.5 months ago. And like, I'm sure there's somebody out there listening and thinking like they didn't do a good job because they didn't go to their friend's party, or I don't know, just getting down on ourselves thinking, wow, I don't really have that many people that, are my close friends. Like, and maybe that's my fault, Like I said, there needs to be grace on all sides. Because I think a lot of the time we're just way too hard on ourselves. Because like Mel even talks about in the book, like she ends up connecting with a lot of friends like later on in life that maybe she lost touch with, and like that's where the timing comes in. Because I was just thinking with you, This is a perfect example. We were just at Plunge and you saw a friend that you hadn't seen in a long time. And how did that go?
It was nice.
Yeah, just tell the people about it.
Ran into a guy that my second year selling pest control and my third year we sold on the same team. So we go way back. Like we've known each other I think for like 10 years now.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen him in a long time.
Yeah.
And it was just fun reconnecting and talking about stories of things that we had done or people experiences that we'd had, things like that.
But it took you back, right?
Yeah, it definitely did.
And you guys totally rekindled it.
As if it was like nothing.
Yeah, as if it was like nothing. And she talks about that in the book that I think that was probably a sign, maybe like a little gift from God that maybe you should reconnect with him. Mm-hmm. And, you could put a concerted effort into, because he gave you his number, right?
Yeah, I have it now.
Yeah. And so I think that's a gift where you could see that, get his number, and we could go out with them, or you could even hang out with just him. But it's just cool to me that you just even had that moment, right? And what are the chances of that? It's just cool. I mean, I think
I didn't recognize him at first, and then he said my name.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do think Utah is pretty small though sometimes, and you run into people that maybe you wouldn't otherwise. Mm-hmm. But I do think things happen for a reason. But yeah, that's a perfect example, I feel of where you could pick it back up, if you want to.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So this episode is brought to you by Toro Marketing, which is my company. It's a door-to-door company where we sell pest control over the summer and in some markets throughout the year. What I wanted to share with you guys is if you guys have friends or family that are looking for work or they're getting ready to come home off of a mission and they're looking for a place or a way to kind of become a little bit more financially independent or just have a really good learning experience, if you recommend them and introduce them to us and they come out and work with us, then one of the cool things is that we'll actually give you a $500 gift card if they sign with us. And some of the things that you should know about them potentially working with me is that when it comes to door-to-door, I've done it for 13 years. In the door-to-door space, I'm fairly well known. What I'm known for is for breaking a sales record, for selling the most accounts. I broke the all-time record back in 2019. And so I don't say that to puff myself up, but really to kind of give you an understanding of my pedigree when it comes to sales. I help people make around $100,000 or more during the summer, and it's not an atypical thing. It's more often that they'll make around 30,000, 20 to 30,000, but I help people all the time make that much money. And it's really not, for me, it's not so much about the money. I'm not like most door-to-door companies in the sense that I put a lot of emphasis on the glitz and the glam and the things that really don't matter. The reason why I'm passionate about door-to-door is because I believe that it's the perfect vehicle for self-development. It's the closest thing to the mission for me in the sense that it really has helped me become a better version of myself. And so truly, I think that everybody that's coming home from a mission should have some sort of experience with door-to-door. Essentially, if you have friends or family that would be interested in door-to-door, but you're not sure who they should go with or work with, if you introduce us to them and we're able to sign them, we would happily give you guys $500, like a gift card. So feel free to reach out to us directly through our Instagram platform to connect me with them.
She talks about how you need to be the one sometimes to make the plans. So she's like, let me make the plans. Let me be understanding. Let me know when the energy is on. And she talks about, like I said, some of our favorite friends we've never even met yet. And don't waste years feeling sorry for yourself. You get to choose how much energy you put into your friendships. And there are going to be people in life that don't want to be friends with you and vice versa. Something that I think you would be interested to hear about from this book is she says people only change if they feel like it. And if you put more pressure on someone, there's going to be more resistance. And so when I think about friendships, you want to be around people who have good energy, right? And they're kind and they're happy to see you and, all the things. And I think sometimes when we put too much pressure on a friendship, it can crack. And sometimes it's not meant to be. When I was listening to this book, I was thinking about that, in Washington when we lived there. That was the first time in my life where I felt like I just didn't have a lot of friends. It made me really sad. I got really down on myself sometimes, wondering why I couldn't make connections. Cause I feel like throughout my life, I've been able to make connections pretty easily.
I do feel like though that you were connected with the people that you needed to connect with, because I did see you make some really beautiful friendships from scratch.
Yeah, and that's true. I did make one of my really close friends now that I have that really did change my life. That's true. But I think
she's like one of the best things about you being in Washington.
Yeah. What I'm referring to is more of like, I felt like I put too much pressure on some people to be my friend. And I expected too much, I think, from people who maybe didn't want to be as close or maybe didn't have the bandwidth, right? And I just like look back on that time thinking like they probably could have felt that energy from me, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes we just have to let like the chips fall and just feel the energy, like where people are at. Sometimes it just like, it doesn't pan out, if that makes sense. But I get like, if anyone's listening out there that like you feel really lonely, right? Like you feel like you're a good person and you care about people and you want to make memories with people. And so it can be really, really hard when you feel like you're making a lot of strides and effort and it just doesn't really work out. Like, I don't know. Have you ever felt that?
Yeah, in some ways, but probably not so much when it comes to friendships. I'm probably a bad example because I don't know. I feel like I'm somebody that's very difficult to get to know because I just don't let a lot of people in.
Yeah.
You know that I would like more friends, but I'm just not at a place where I can really invest a ton into relationships that are not naturally going to occur in my environment. It's just not where I'm at with life.
Yeah.
And
I also think like everybody's cup is different, right?
I feel like my cup is very, very different. Mm-hmm. I feel like my cup gets filled to the point where I don't have like existential loneliness.
But don't you like what I've said about this book, like that you need to take the responsibility of the friendships?
Yeah, I feel like if I was to take responsibility of friendships, I would have more friends. Because I do think that there's enough people that like me or are interested enough in me that if I let them, they would be friends. I've felt that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that they felt me not let them get closer. Mm-hmm. You know, like I feel like it's almost like a palpable thing. And honestly, I think that comes from things I probably just need to work through. Adult friendships are hard. They're hard as it is, even if you don't have a weird shaped cup like I do. But ultimately, I do feel like they are worth it to the extent that you can do it.
Yeah. I'm lucky to have a lot of friendships that I've held on to over the years. Like I have friends from elementary, middle school, and I've like thought about some of the friendships that I've kept and like why that is. Because I feel like I have some friends who have questioned that and been like, how do you do it? You know, like what do you do to keep those friendships going? And I will say there's something so beautiful about some of those friendships because we have so many invested memories and just like they know me in all the phases, right? Like they knew me when I was a teenager. And so it's really like cool, but I don't think that's as common. And I do think like, I'll admit there's some friendships that I had when I was younger that I don't have anymore. And it does make me really sad. But I think like sometimes you just have to like move on. And I've heard this saying of like, sometimes there's just friendships for a season, you know, or a reason. And I think like, I just have had to come at peace or come to terms with like some of the friendships that I've had were for a season, but it doesn't mean that I don't care about those people anymore. And I think like, just like your friend that you saw at Plunge, I think there's some friends that I would probably see again that we could just reconnect with and like reminisce, and it would be great. But yeah, at the same time, like I just want anyone listening to like really know that they're capable. They're capable of having close friendships. And it might take a long time though. From what I saw with Washington, it didn't pan out exactly the way I thought it would, you know? But I also think you have to be grateful for the friendships and relationships that you have. And it's okay if you have a couple, you know?
One thing I think that's impressive about you though, is that you go through that feeling of like being somewhere for 3 years, kind of feeling like you're spinning your wheels, you're giving effort and it's not being reciprocated. I don't think I'm mentally strong enough to survive something like that. Like I feel like I couldn't do that. And I think that that's something that's cool about you. Like if I put out effort, there would have to be almost an immediate reciprocation because I'm not going to chase people.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to chase people because I feel like it would hurt me too much. Like it would hurt my feelings. in a way where I probably wouldn't allow myself to put myself out there again in the same way.
I really did feel like at times I was like begging for friendship, like begging for people to hang out with me. And I've never felt that before. And I don't know if anyone out there's ever felt that, but like, I think like we just always have to push through. I think we have to manifest and believe, like Mel Robbins is saying, that like our best friendships and relationships are still out there, and that it's never too late to make a friend. It's never too late to make somebody feel loved and cared about. And I talked about this with my cousin last night, that like as people in our lives have passed away, we've really thought about like what we want people to remember about us, you know? And I don't know, it just meant so much to me when she was talking about my dad last night and saying that I have some of his qualities of where I care about people and I make people feel loved, and that I have a good heart and I put in effort, you know? And that means a lot to me. But I think like, even if we don't have tons of close friends, I do think that you can make a difference, even if you don't have the bandwidth, like you're saying, to have a ton of close friends. I think we can always make a difference by smiling at people. I think we can always make a difference by complimenting somebody, even making, like she says in the book, like those micro connections, because I know suicide rates are probably just going to continue to go up, as morbid as that sounds. I just think that like people are struggling right now mentally. Like it's just a really hard time to live.
Yeah.
And I think that anytime we can make a difference, we should. We, at the end of the day, have to take responsibility of our own lives. Just don't put too many expectations on yourself or other people, because you're probably going to be let down, you know? I don't know. I just think we all need to probably chill out a little bit, but also like not stop putting forth effort, if that makes sense.
I think that for me, I can definitely, like the place where I feel like I can get the most improvement and I don't feel like it would require significantly more of me than I can give, is just continuing to work on micro connections and being friendly, you know, with people in passing.
Yeah.
Or maybe not friendly, because I feel like I'm genuinely friendly, but trying to connect with people as I'm passing by or interacting with them.
Anytime like at your workplace, like if you guys end up going to the gas station, for example, like right by your work, you could learn somebody's name that works there.
Yeah.
You know, like things like that, where you could be like, good to see you, John. Like, I don't know. It made me happy thinking about that, because I feel like every time I do that and I like call somebody by their name, it makes me feel good. You know, like even if I'm maybe never going to see John again, you can still make a difference. So
on a side note, all the 7-Eleven workers of every 7-Eleven ever always flirt with Caitlin for some reason.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like there are a lot of Indian guys in 7-Eleven, or the 7-Elevens in Washington, that were pretty friendly, but they were nice. I always told them I was married though, so don't fret. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I will link the book by Mel Robbins that we talked about a lot today. And I would love to hear anybody's thoughts about adult friendships and their experiences, and if they took anything from this episode. And yeah, thanks so much for listening. Rate, subscribe, review, share with your friends, and welcome to the zoo.